because I didn't actually apply, I just thought, okay, cool. But then once I now started going to the auditions, I'm like, wait, I'm up against actual chefs who've been chefing for years. What I had noticed there, the gap in the market was that there wasn't food from all over the world. Like, you wouldn't find jerk chicken there. You
Mm.
wouldn't find necessarily Mexican food there. So what I wanted to do was create somewhere where you can actually have food from different places.
First of all, welcome to Nexus Talks. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much for joining us. Joyce, if I was a 5-year-old, can you please just explain what it is you do?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll keep it quite simple, even though I do kind of an array of things.
Yeah.
So I'm a private chef, celebrity chef, all in one. Obviously, just a chef for people. So I do both celebrities and also just whenever when people want to do like a birthday, anniversaries. I've also do catering as well for like weddings and a lot of companies. I do loads of work for them. I also host like cook-alongs with companies mainly where we're cooking together. I'm teaching them how to do stuff, sometimes on Zoom and sometimes in person. I do consulting for restaurants and people. So that can mean menu developments, recipe developments, looking at the operations of a restaurant and how they're doing the food systems, etc. So I do that as well. And of course, I do content creation. So you probably know me off TikTok, Instagram, etc., where I post my recipes. So yeah.
I love that. That was a mouthful and brief.
Yeah. I try to like just keep it simple.
No, you did. I'm surprised you remembered it all. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Spot on. So, Joyce, were you always in love with the kitchen? Like, is it a passion?
Yeah, but funnily enough, I've always loved cooking and I've always loved being in the kitchen, but that wasn't where I thought my career would be, if that makes sense. Like it was always a hobby for me. But from a young age, I've literally loved being in the kitchen. Like when my mum was cooking, I was always just like around to see what's going on, or whenever I'd go to like an auntie's house or a friend's house, I was always interested. And a big part of that started from a young age, going to like my friend's house, like from different nationalities as well, because for me, a big part of my cooking has always been like seeing what other people do and like really exploring through travel. But the first, point of travel for me was actually just going to my friends' houses, and my friend will be Italian and I'll be seeing them make pasta, or I'll go to someone else's house and I'm seeing them make curry and I'm like, oh, okay, like this is cool kind of thing. So yeah, I'll tell you it mainly started from there, but it wasn't a work thing until later on, which we'll probably talk about.
Yeah, tell me about that now. So, like, what did you do? Did you go to university?
Yes, I went to university. I studied business.
Yeah.
And when I came out, I was just looking for a job. Kind of, I mean, I studied business, which meant that I've always kind of wanted to be an entrepreneur, to be honest, and work for myself. That's always been the goal. But it kind of looked different at different stages because I didn't know exactly in which field, for example. Because when I was growing up, I was kind of interested in kind of beauty, and then I kind of went through different stuff. So when I came out of uni, I was doing administration just because that's a job I could get straight away. I did some administration, um, and from there I ended up doing marketing and administration, moving on to like marketing sides. And I went to Congo for 2 years. And in the first year, I worked in like marketing and administration in an agriculture company. Then I moved on to working in a school. So I was actually teaching English in a French school. So it was completely like, yeah, those 2 years was basically 2 years after uni, I would say, or a year after uni.
Yeah.
So
What
straight
made
where I
you
wanted.
what made you go to Congo? Was there a reason or
So I was only meant to go for 3 months. So my parents, well, I'm from Congo as well, but like I was born in the UK.
Yeah.
And for me it was like I wanted to go back and see where my parents were born and grew up and everything because I had never been there. I was born here, never been back
Oh
all my life.
wow.
So the plan was okay. I was finished uni. I hadn't had like a concrete job that I was loving. So I was like, you know what, why not travel for a bit? So I remember at the time, I even took on extra jobs like on the side. So before I left, I was working like in a restaurant as a waitress.
Yeah.
Um, and all of that was to save so that when I go on holiday for 3 months, it'll be all good.
Yeah.
So I ended up going for 3 months, and I found a job. So that's what had happened. Like I found a job out there. So then I ended up staying. So it ended up being from 3 months to 2 years. So
Wow.
yeah,
What was
that's
it
what
like?
happened.
What was your favorite thing about that being in Congo?
Do you know what? Because it was my first time, everything was just a new experience. So it was like learning everything all at once, like going through the emotions. It was really like I'll say a lot of up and downs because obviously I was there without my family as well, so it was quite
Yeah.
hard. and I was making new friends for the first time. But even then, it just felt so natural because I really made really great friends. I had people to support me that I had just met, but it felt like I've known them from a lifetime. Um, it was nice to know the country as well because one big part of that was the food. So that's where I even got really into the food. I was like, oh, even though we have the food here, it was so different seeing it from there because you see everything fresh. Like you'll see, for example, I don't know, goat meat, but you actually see the real goat. I know that sounds
Yeah.
crazy. Anyone who's a
No, I get
vegan,
it.
they'll be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
But you actually see the cow before it's actually killed. You see the goat before it's killed and eaten. You see the the fruit and veg, like how it actually comes up from the ground. And for me, that was like something I really, really got into and I loved. And actually, whilst out there, I started a business out there which was running every single Sunday an event where they would have like it was called a barbecue grillade gourmand, which just meant like the greedy grill, where what the concept was like trying foods from different countries, but there. So what I had noticed there, the gap in the market was that there wasn't food from all over the world. Like you wouldn't find jerk chicken there. You
Mm.
wouldn't find necessarily Mexican food there. So what I wanted to do was create somewhere where you can actually have food from different places. So I started that and that was like really doing so well. I wasn't cooking, but I'd hired like chef, I'd hired people. I was just literally I was creating the whole event basically. Um
Wow.
so yeah, that happened and I did love food. So when all of these things are happening at the time, I wasn't thinking, okay, this is going to be my line of work still. But it was just like, oh, okay, I like this. It's a good idea. Why don't I do this as a side hustle? I've always been a business person. So for me, it was always like, I'm always looking for like side hustles, what I can
Yeah.
do, etc. So yeah, that's kind of what happened.
And then what happened? But what was the this is it. This is going to be my career moment.
Oh, so basically, yeah. So I then come back to London after the 2 years because there was a change. So I would have actually stayed there because things were going really well. I had a great job. But because of the change in politics there, things the country became really unstable in
Mm.
terms of like the safety wasn't so great anymore, etc. So I had to come back to the UK for a little bit.
Yeah.
And when I came back, one of my friends actually had spoken to her and I told her about what I was doing in Congo in terms of the event. And she thought, oh, it sounds so good and everything. And she's like, oh, would you ever do something like that in London? And I was like, probably not to that extent, but we should actually look at something because she also like became redundant, I think, at the time.
Right.
And I obviously just came back and I didn't have the job. So I was like, why don't we start like a business together? So we started like a pop-up business like in her house where we were making soul food and we are doing that and I loved it, to be honest. Like it wasn't even going that well, to be honest, in terms of like
Really?
success. Like, it was because it was like in Essex and we kind of just started out and it was mainly our friends buying from us, so it
Right.
was really small scale, but I just enjoyed doing it. And that's when I realized, oh, I actually miss cooking because in Congo I didn't cook as much.
Yeah.
And also at that time as well, because I was at home a lot, I would create a lot of recipes and just post it online. And so it kind of ties in with me starting that business and it being kind of like a side hustle because obviously, like I said, we still needed a job. So that wasn't enough. We needed a job.
Yeah.
I ended up posting a lot of my recipes online and I have, sorry, my cousin who's married to a head chef, that head chef works at the Ivy.
Oh.
So he was like to me, oh, your food looks so good. Like he's like, have you been training? Have you been doing this and that? And I'm like, nope, I've just been loving
Natural.
food. Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I've just loved food and I've been doing this. And he's like, oh, okay, well, would you be interested? Like in a job because we're actually hiring here. Like they were hiring. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start. He's like, you know what? Bring your CV, like do all of these stuff, come, and then we'll see what you can do. You can even start off like lower and just work your way up, kind of thing. And that was my first ever entry point in terms of a chef job. Um,
And that came from online. He just saw some of your
yeah,
videos.
he would see my videos, and this was like maybe 2018, I'd say.
Wow.
2018, yeah. So he was seeing my videos online and stuff, and he was like, "It just looks so good. Like, you know what to do. Basically, just come and you'll learn more whilst you're here." He goes,
Yeah.
"You'll train whilst you're here. You'll learn." And obviously, him being one of the high people in that particular restaurant at the time, that really helped because obviously I had him to really guide me.
Yeah.
He's literally studied it all the way to university level in terms of like um hospitality, food. Like he's very, very good at his craft. So yeah, I was really lucky to get into that because that's something that would have been really hard because I got into it as an amateur and everyone around me had like literally either studied in college been working for years, so I was really
Yeah.
an amateur thrown in the deep end. But that really pushed me so much because what I was doing at the time was whenever I would finish work, I would come home, be practicing my knife skills, go on YouTube, go on this because I just really, really loved it. And that's where I actually started training as a chef. So that's where it began when I
Yeah.
worked at that restaurant.
Love that. And when you were posting your recipes online, did you expect for it to grow the way it did, or and what were the kind of
So
reactions you got?
yeah, so even at this point, like I said, my page hadn't really grown at this point. This was literally family and friends, and that's he so happened to be a family and friend who really just believed in what I was doing.
Yeah.
And when I was posting and he was seeing how passionate I was, even at work, he saw how, really passionate I was about cooking, and then like how much graft I was putting into it, even at work. Um from there, I just continued posting, and obviously things started growing slowly.
Yeah.
I would say where I actually started growing online in terms of as a content creator was just before and during COVID. So
Mm.
during COVID, what had happened was everyone was at home, and um, that's where it was a rapid growth for me because I was posting recipes every single day. Like I was literally consistent daily. And it was from places, restaurants basically. I was doing restaurant copies every single day because all of these places were closed.
Yeah.
So McDonald's was closed, KFC was closed. There was literally nowhere.
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone was just like, "Oh, you're making recipes that seems hard because we don't know what to do, so easy." And that's where I kind of stayed in terms of my journey because there was a time where I wanted to actually show people, no, I can actually do this and I can plate really extravagant plates. And that's where I kind of went into now. I'll tell you like later on as well about doing
Yeah.
supper clubs was to
Mm.
show my actual own menus and my own passionate stuff. But what my online page was really dedicated for was to show people things that they already know in an easy way.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's how it kind of grew from that moment.
I really relate to that as well because I grew up in an Arab household, so I'm Egyptian, and I realized early on that there was like a divide in roles. So I took a stand
Mhm.
really young. I was like, I'm not cooking. You're not going to make me the woman that cooks and stuff. And I like shot myself in the foot big time because when I moved out and got married, I was like,
Um, what's happening here?
literally, honestly, so many kitchen injuries. I burnt my arm, like,
Mhm.
and you don't realize like how important these skills are just
Exactly.
for you. You know, being able to cook yourself a decent meal. And I think sometimes I look at these recipes online and I'm so intimidated because I'm like, how the hell am I meant to chop the garlic like that? But
Yes.
it makes a difference when you kind of it feels like achievable and
Simplify it.
real.
Yeah. So I think that was my whole thing was really just to try to simplify it as much as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. And then I know we're going to break down so much, but let's talk about your appearance in Netflix's Five-Star Chef.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was that like? Highlights, lowlights?
Yeah. So even with that, that kind of came off guard because I remember I got contacted. So I was emailed by I think one of their producers, I guess.
Yeah.
So some people are contacted and some people applied. So
Mm.
I was contacted, and then I had to go through a three-stage interview stage. So we had like Zoom calls, where they're asking you questions, and you're really like just going through it. And then after that, it then came down to the actually in-person auditions, where you have to actually audition with loads of people. You come there, you cook a meal, then you get judged, and if you don't pass, then if you pass, you go to the next stage until they picked their final 12 people out of the thousands. So that was really interesting for me because I didn't actually apply, and I didn't you don't have that how can I say it? I didn't have so much like expectations, I can say.
Right.
And I just thought, okay, cool. But then once I now started going to the auditions, I'm like, wait, I'm up against actual chefs who've been chefing for years. Bear in mind, like I said to you, I literally started working in a restaurant in 2018.
Yeah.
Um, and at this point, we were filming in 2021 or 22? 22, I think, 2022. So I was up against chefs who've been chefing for about 20 years, people who have been in the industry, Michelin stars, people
Wow.
who like just so many types of people. And I remember you would see people around you. So like you're cooking is an audition, but there's different stations. So you're looking left and right at the end, you're thinking, wow, okay, this is not a joke. Wow. And it was really lovely for me because I remember when we got to the final, I think it's 12 people that they picked. Final, it was like 12 or 14. There was the
Yeah.
14 people that they picked. And I remember getting to that 14 stage where we all actually came to now the actual filming stage. And that felt really surreal because I hadn't met any of these 14 people, because in my previous auditions there was just people that just didn't get through, if that makes sense.
Right, I
Because
get
there's so many to get there, there's so many stages basically,
yeah.
before they pick the people that they want on the show. So already just at that point it felt really good, you know. And then during that time where we're actually filming now with the 14, to then be left as the top seven contestant, going head to head and like having world renowned chefs saying like, you know, your food is amazing, this girl knows flavor, she
Flavor,
really
yeah.
knows. It really just like added a lot to me, because I was like, you know what, even though my concept wasn't chosen in terms of going forward for the final,
Yeah.
but them just really like being like, wow, this is amazing. And I remember there's even parts that were cut out where they didn't even try any of these things before. Like it was the first time for chef Michelle Roux to even try cassava, so I had brought
Wow.
something brand new to him, because he's like, I've never had this before. They were just like so intrigued by it, so
Yeah.
it was like, okay, maybe the concept wasn't something that could like work in that establishment, but for them to just be like, wow, you know, flavor, it just felt really good, because these are people that I've looked up to for years, imagine, because in the chef world these are names that are, you know, up there.
Yeah.
So it was just really good.
It's really refreshing that you decided to do a dish that's authentic to you and what you want to show, as opposed to kind of being like playing the game and going, okay, what dish is it that's going to take me to the next step? I think that's really refreshing. A question I wanted to ask you also is, where do you find the inspiration for your recipes? You've mentioned that you were traveling through kitchens before you even traveling the world, and I think that's really lovely. I also saw your series about the African Cup of Nations where you were
Exactly.
I love that. So where do you stay motivated and find your recipes from?
So that's literally really it. My number one
Yeah.
motivation comes from a lot of traveling. And also, like I said, we don't always travel by leaving the country, but we travel through the people around us. So growing up in a multicultural environment, basically like living in London, you know, it as being like you meet people from everywhere. And
Yeah.
something for me was that whenever I meet people, we always bond first over food. So I'm always like, when I meet my friends, wherever you're from, I'm like, oh, okay, like, what do you guys actually eat? How do you guys do it? And that's always been me. And then of course, like, I love reading cookery books. um I love cooking shows from young. Like I've always been a cooking show girl from young, so it's quite interesting that I was on like a cooking show, but I've always loved being watching them.
Yeah.
I love cookbooks. I'm always online as well, of course, like seeing stuff as well, and there's lots of inspiration through people as well.
Yeah.
Having a lot of chef friends and working with people, and even just being on the show around other people who they all came from other backgrounds. We had people from a Nordic background. You had people from the Caribbean, etc. And literally learning through them as well. That's been something that I'd just say, yeah, you just gain those inspirations everywhere.
On a level, we're going to talk about your supper club and your private chefing, all of that. At any point, does doing what you love as a career ever take the love out of it?
Um, do you know what? Is actually a good question, because I feel like in the past year, I would say this is where I kind of struggled with balance, because it got to a place where I had to like take a step back from certain things, because when you're working so much that you're literally like non-stop, I wouldn't say it takes the passion away, but then it's just gives you that block where you're not doing as much as you can in what I could be doing. For example, because I listed, I do other things as well with content. Sometimes that can go on the back burner, because that's where the love can come out of it. Whereas before it was so natural to me to make content, because I wasn't thinking about it being fancy. I was just like, I want to share it naturally. Whereas the content creation world has changed a lot from when I started until now. And now it's like you have to really feel like, okay, I'm not doing enough for this content. It's not looking the best. Whereas before it was like, I would go on my stories and be like, oh guys, I'm making dinner tonight. This is what I'm making. And that really got a lot of traction as well. But when you look at the competition of those that just do content creation solely, there's a lot of production that goes behind it. There's a lot of time and just a certain standard that you want to now like elevate yourself as well, which is normal, because you don't want to just be left on that like rustic kind of vibe of like, oh guys, follow me whilst I do my dinner or something like that, because there's now a standard in the industry that has been elevated.
I completely get you, and I think it can be really overwhelming.
Mm.
And sometimes I say, but like content is king. So I know which videos you're kind of talking about, the ones that are super slick with
Yeah,
transitions, all
yeah,
that. That intimidates the hell out of me. I'm just like, all right, it's beautiful content. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, it's not for me. So as much as I completely understand that, you always want to level up and be as good as you can be. But I always feel like content is king, and it's like, what value are you offering to your
exactly.
audiences?
Yeah.
So,
For
but
me,
I
of
get that.
course, for me, staying authentic is important. And like, I'm not trying to now do like, oh my God, I want to become like, let's say, an ASMR content where it's like you're hearing the chopping and this and that, because I don't feel like with my audience, that's what they resonate with. For example, they actually want to come to you and see something, like you said, that doesn't feel intimidating, that doesn't feel like too much. But at the same time, it's not that it takes the love out of it, but when you're doing it and you feel like, okay, I'm not doing it to my best of my abilities, then what happens
Yeah.
is you can now start taking longer breaks because you're like, you're waiting for that time where you're going to be free, but that time doesn't come. You need to just do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, just keep going. So that's what's been on my mind. I'm like, just go, just do it regardless, because people have loved it for what it was. So
Yeah. And it's brought so many opportunities your way as well.
literally, so yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
so grateful for that. Yeah.
So tell me how we got into the supper clubs, being a private chef, consulting for restaurants.
Yeah, so supper club started very early on, to be honest.
Yeah.
So even prior to me going quite, let's say, going viral for certain recipes or bigger on Instagram and stuff, I started Beloco Supper Club. Um, Beloco Supper Club and Beloco itself was basically catered around Pan African menus, and I was doing that in 2018, 19, and that went really, really well. I had a pop up in the underground station in Old Street, where I was there like for about 2, 3 weeks. Then I moved on to doing different pop ups and supper clubs, and that was just really nice for me. I always felt like I want to also not just work in a restaurant, but I wanted to share my own take on things because there's so much of what I want to share that's not out there already. So that's kind of how that started. And then of course, as the demand grew, with my own page, I had stopped for a while. That's when I started doing my own personal supper clubs because people just wanted to try my food. So
Do you think with all the different food trends and dietary requirements, people being vegan and veggie and stuff, what kind of like trends do you think are going to be emerging, or does it make any of your like recipes difficult at all?
It doesn't make my recipes difficult at all. I think
Good.
there's been a big shift in dietary changes, but that's for everybody. For me, I feel like I'm more conscious with the foods that I eat as well. So at
Mm,
one point, a lot of my recipes were, like I said during COVID, was takeover from restaurants. So it was McDonald's, KFC, this, that, whatever. But these are all kind of, let's say, unhealthy foods.
yeah.
But a big part of a trend, or let's not can I say a trend? I mean, it is a part of a trend, and also just like with growth, like even as
Yeah.
when you grow, you just start realizing, okay, no, we want to be more healthy and stuff. I've been seeing that in sustainability as well. So with a lot of content creators doing food like what's in my cupboard, making something with what I have left, and things like that, which is really important because overconsumption is not what we need right now, especially when we know that there's a recession, or things are not necessarily you know uh,
Yeah.
that great. So it's like it's good to kind of always have that in the back of our mind. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have a duty to show that in your content? I know sometimes being an influencer, depending on what industry you are, there's a lot of pressure to be like, hey, you should be talking about the causes, like the issues
Yeah.
in the industry. Do you feel that duty?
Yeah, for me, I always I'm vocal about things like that. So like I'll always share things like, okay, when we're talking about the price increases, um
Yeah.
I literally always talk about that on my stories about how we went from like buying oil that was 5 liters from, I don't know, £5 to £10, how there's been like 100% increase in certain
Yeah.
produces, or all of those things. So I always try to keep really in contact with my followers. So if it means showing them alternatives, things that you can use, or using what we have to make simple recipes and stuff like that, I think that's important to also showcase that as well.
Yeah. Joyce, I'm going to have to pick your brain now for some advice for
Mhm.
anyone who's listening who wants to do what you're doing, creating content, or scared to create content, even though they've got a huge passion for this.
Mhm.
What are your top tips, first of all, for getting into content creation?
So, like, yeah, my biggest advice for content creation is, of course, is staying consistent, because with content creation, you need to be consistent. And I would say the best way to be consistent is to really plan. So once you plan and you're able to like maybe pre-record things, that always helps. And also knowing that content creation is not just posting a video. So it does get a lot. So that's why it's about basically pacing yourself. There's the editing part. There's you need to actually think about what's happening in advance. So if you know like Valentine's Day is coming up, why not think about that in advance and what you can do to that and kind of catering to that, because it always helps with your your following, because people be like, oh, that's actually current at the moment. That's what I'm looking for. Um
Mm.
and with private chefing, one thing I would say is being consistent, true to yourself, and also it's important to know that it's not just like cooking. There's a big part of it which is business. So I had to learn that really early on, whether it means getting financial help outside because you need to be paying your own taxes, for example,
Yeah.
or if you need to get an actual accountant, or if you need to have someone who's going to help you to plan your bookings, or could you do it yourself, or there's a lot of things that go into it that people kind of just think sometimes it's like cooking. I'm like, there's so much more behind it. So it's
Yeah.
knowing how to actually handle it as a business, because it is a business. And nurturing those relationships with clients, because a lot of my clients are reoccurring clients. So yeah, they keep coming back, and that's because I've been able to maintain that relationship with them. So yeah, like there's just a lot of things, and for me it's just not about losing my passion. So how do I find ways of elevating it each time, and each way? That's what I always try to concentrate on.
Yeah. What's your go-to way to do that?
So it's just through planning really. So after going
Mm.
back, I always evaluate and then I'll
Okay.
plan. So after doing big events, after doing even small events, I'll always try to evaluate, oh, how would it have been better? What could I have done? After about 6 months, I've been doing private dining for about over 4 years. After 6 months, trying to like maybe change up the menu, add new things. Do you know what I mean? Like, because like I said,
Yeah.
I have reoccurring clients. So it's like they need to be excited each and every single time, knowing that there's going to be new things and interesting stuff. So yeah.
Great. And can I also ask, how important is it to be on it with personal branding? Because sometimes people are really scared of social media or don't know how to market themselves. Do you think it's essential to step into what you've done?
100%, because people really bite into people. Like you want to
Mm.
go somewhere where you feel like okay, it feels like you're just talking to somebody else. Because I have so many people that they will message me and it's like you can see they're talking to you like they've known you for years, because they've literally been following you for long as well. So
Yeah.
it's really important to be personable. You don't have to put your whole business out there. You don't have to like kind of cross boundaries. I don't. I'm someone who's still essentially quite private, but I feel like it's important to still put myself out there and not to just be closed off, because I do feel I could just literally just show my hands only. But I do think it's
Yeah.
important to also like, show them who's the person behind this, what's your story. Like that's important as well. It doesn't need to be about who are your friends or what you're watching, but it's about what is your actual story connected with the food and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
It's great that you've said that because I do think a lot of people are quite introverted and personal and don't want their life on social media. So
Exactly.
it's good to know that you can still do both because
Yeah,
it's
like for me
important.
that was quite important to like not cross those boundaries. I felt like it was really important, especially with the new age of social media. Sometimes you don't want to feel like everything is out there and you don't have anything to yourself, because there are
Yeah.
still things that are personal, which could be your family and your friends. You don't want to just have everything out there.
Yeah, I get that. Looking ahead, Joyce, are there any exciting or upcoming projects that we should look out for? That you're even allowed to tell us, actually.
Yeah, so there's some things, yeah, I could tell you some stuff. So I'm working more on actually doing many more pop-ups, but right now I'm doing that internationally. So I'm planning on an international kind of pop-up tour and series, because for me, like I said, travel has been a big part of my whole journey. And I feel like now it's time to also allow others who are far, who have supported me, to try that, and also for me to continue learning through the travels as well.
Love that. Well, best of luck with
Thank you
that.
so much.
And one message you'd like to leave people with, something that might be inspiring or get them to push themselves out there.
The message I was leave people just to be authentic, stay true to your passion, stay true to your values, and also just like keep pushing, because sometimes things do get hard, but just keep pushing while staying authentic to yourself. I think that is really the biggest thing I would say.
Yeah. And finally, I've been dying to ask you this question, but I thought let me save it to the end. Do you have any really weird food combos?
Mm, weird food combo. I don't know,
Yeah.
because It's kind of hard because I feel like, is there such thing as a weird food combo? I've
Well, let
tried.
me give you an example. I am addicted to Nutella and cheese and onion crisps together.
Wait.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Oh wow. Okay. I was thinking like, when people are always saying like, for example, fries from McDonald's and like ice cream, like that's weird, but we've all done it. Do
We
you know what I
love
mean? Like
that.
we've all done that. I'm a big person on savory and sweet, so I like the whole savory and sweet combo anyway. So saying weird, I don't know. Do you know what? Actually, I don't know if you remember the viral content when it was with the pickle wrapping the sweet around it.
Yeah, and the sherbet
The
and all of
sherbet and
that
all of that.
jazz.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something I actually enjoyed because I remember it being a thing where some people were like, no, some people loved it. I actually enjoyed it. I remember doing it and actually thinking, oh, pickle and sweets together, it hits the spot. It was pretty good. So I'd say that's probably like a weird combo. Um,
Okay. I saw that trend and I was just like, people need to
Wait.
relax. But if
Yeah,
if head
literally.
chef culinary expert is saying it's okay,
To be
I might
honest, I
try
feel
it.
like what made it good was the sourness, the sweet. I mean, I didn't do all of it because I know they was putting like crisps in the middle. I didn't do all of that, but it was
Yeah.
basically the pickle and the sweet together. I think that was what I liked.
Okay, fine. Joyce, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. So is MsJoyceK, Miss Joyce K. I'm also in Twitter as well. So is I am Joyce K, and on TikTok, Miss Joyce K.
Joyce, thank you so much. You are an absolute dream, honestly. Like, I
Well, it's
really,
been really
really
great speaking to you as
appreciate your time.
well.
Yeah? Good. I'm glad to hear it.